Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Tuesday, June 12th, 2018. Sorry for the weird intro there, folks. You know us here at Grand Solar Minimum channel. Taking a look at solar conditions right now. Our solar wind speed is sitting at 307.9 kilometers per second. Now, this has been pretty consistent for the last 24 hours. In fact, last night, it did dip below the 300 mark at 293 was the lowest it got. Still keeping our eyes on it. Density is at 3.1 and still 0 sunspots to speak of right now. That makes it now 7 days in a row. 87 days for 2018. We are now 17 days away of spotless days, that is, from tying 2017's number. Take a look at the KP indices. They were at a 1 earlier. They're back down to a 0, and the 24-hour max is at a 2. And here we have the SDO. Now, here we have the coronal hole that should cause a minor disruption on the today or tomorrow. However, that is a 25% chance of any activity at all if there is a storm. And taking a look at our SDO live right now, in motion I should say, we're paying close attention to this active region here on the eastern limb that has not yet been named a sunspot. Although at first glance this does look impressive, but we have seen these sunspots form and then dissipate within 24 to 48 hours. So we will continue to monitor the situation, but right now all is quiet on the sun. Also checking the solar flex earlier, and nothing more than B-class flares in the last 24 hours. So very, very quiet right now. And taking a look at the TSI ratings from June 4th, 2018, we dropped back down to 1360.7, I believe, 7607. So we peaked out again at 1360.82 just the other day, and now beginning to drop back down. And just a quick update. I spoke on this already, I believe, most of this, but there is some information in here that that wasn't covered in the Watchers article that I had read. And I thought it was interesting to note, on top of the damage of the 600 homes or more that could be, some folks have been let back into the region as some of the lava flow is now out into the ocean. They say it does not pose any threats, but they've had to put mandatory evacuations out, and now they're threatening to arrest citizens who do not comply because the situation is getting too serious in certain areas. And this is a bulldozer here, and it's here to remove chain of craters road in order to create evacuation route. And that's pretty much what the landscape looks like right now. But the one thing that really caught my eye in this article was that over the weekend, a 400-year-old lake vanished within hours after lava entered it and boiled away all of its water. So lava from nearby Fissure 8, which continues to spew lava at 180 feet into the air, entered Green Lake Saturday, creating a massive plume of steam, causing the body of water to fizzle away. So this was as of 3 p.m. Yesterday, I believe. So I'll leave the link in the description. And the title, some of you are probably like, what in the hell is an okie doke? Well, an okie doke is when you tell somebody one thing and then you get what you want and then turn around and go against that. And that's exactly what NASA's Jim Bridenstine has pulled here. Anthony Watts writes in this article that this is a grave disservice to our president, as it talks about how Jim apparently was against global warming. And I'll even show you. Here is a picture, headline from April 20th, 2018. Liberals are furious that head of NASA climate change is a skeptic. So this guy had come out. Now, here is the key points that I wanted to point out that were very good indicators by Anthony Watts. One, we have a happy Jim Bridenstine with a happy Bill Nye. Now, we all know who Bill Nye is and what he stands for, and he is a global warmist believer that, man-made has created this. And all the criticized tweets here that have come in, people that don't understand the actual science of this, it says here, Bridenstine has no background in science, denies climate change exists, and has made awful statements on social issues. He is ludicrously unqualified. So this guy turns it around. Now, but before this, now this is where it gets odd. Bill Nye is congratulating Mr. Bridenstine on the promotion to be ahead at NASA for their, for their programs to get back on track. A lot of people, this article finishes up, still Bridenstine's confirmation will be good news for the old-fashioned types among us who believe that NASA's main job should be space exploration rather than promoting Muslim outreach or bolstering the climate alarmist narrative with fake data. So this person that wrote this article at the time was okay with Jim Bridenstine because he denied man-made global warming, and then turns around, gets the job. He is a new administrator at NASA. Okay, I'll go back a little bit. And this is what he says after the fact. This is what's got Anthony upset and myself as well. He says, I came to the conclusion myself, here, I'll move that down a little bit. I came to the conclusion myself that carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas that we've put a lot of into our atmosphere. And therefore we have contributed to the global warming that we've seen. And we've done it in really significant ways. So Trump appoints this guy to be the head of administrator at NASA, thinking, like I said, we've talked about this several times, starting with Mr. Pruitt and others who are being promoted by Trump, who deny the man-made global warming, who reject the theory that CO2 is warming. These people are being put in place on purpose because they're finally trying to get the truth out. Now, this guy pulled the old okie doke, and maybe this is just a political stunt for him. Who knows? Maybe Mr. Bridenstine has a future in running for office. But this won't last very long. Trump's not stupid. Right now, he's dealing with way more important issues. And I'm sure once he gets done wrapping this up, his summit and his trip, once he finally gets home, I'm sure he's aware of this as well. He's seen this. But this guy won't be at NASA very long, and he's going to hear those famous words, "You're fired," very soon. I just think you've got some cojones to try to pull this stunt off. And one more thing, the odd part about Bill Nye, he congratulated Jim. There was also another comment that states, this was a Climate Depot's Mark Morano told Anthony Watts, something is very wrong when Michael Mann and Gavin Schmidt approve of Trump's pick for NASA. Along with the fact that you had Bill Nye, who was a man-made global warmist, alarmist, also congratulating. So you're scratching your head, you're thinking to yourself, wait a minute, this guy just admitted that he is, skeptic about climate change. And these people who are, the breath of man-made global warming are okay with it. And they're applauding it. And so now, I know this is getting a little petty, but this to me feels like that this was the plan all along. That Jim Bridenstine never intended to walk in with the policies that some of the Trump administration are now implying by wiping out global warming and man-made and all that stuff away from their websites and documents. Trust me, Trump's not going to hire somebody who's going to go against the grain. Okay, apparently we've got some weasels still out there trying to play like they're, here to help. But it's this won't last very long. Like I said, he will be fired. And just to add to yesterday's climate science article, the brief one that I showed yesterday about melting. In fact, there's records, all right. Record slow Arctic melt continues. Arctic sea ice volume is the highest for the date in 13 years. Melt is on the slowest on its record, actually. Got a couple graphs that will prove that. Once again, here we look at the sea ice thickness. June 11th. I showed you guys June 10th. This is the area that has gained strength. This has lost a little bit of thickness compared to where it was back in 2008, but this is the time of the year where we should be seeing some significant melt. And in fact, we're at a record low. The Greenland surface mass gain shows above normal and continues to increase. Now, wait till you hear about this. The surface temperatures around the Greenland are now record cold. You don't say. And this guy's pulling this. This is data from NOAA. Now, I know we've had to, be skeptical before, but I think there's new people in place right now since 2016 that aren't going to allow the manipulation of the data anymore. And guys, I'm going to report on this. Even if this ocean heats up for some reason, I'm going to report on it. I'm not going to hide it because what my theory is that we're cooling. Just because we have an anomaly and we get some sudden heating doesn't mean I'm going to jump away from this anomaly. But the fact that this article, this website really is pointing it out, this is like a turd in a punch bowl. So you hear all these alarmists out there tell us that we're going to have no ice caps this summer, that we're melting at a record pace, and yet, especially the Greenland ice sheet, that's the one I hear about the most, how it's in the worst trouble right now. It's catastrophic. In fact, I think it says Greenland is still locked in a winter for days before summer solstice. Vikings farmed Greenland during the recently erased medieval warm period, but farming would be pretty difficult in the modern cold climate that it's in right now. 80 years ago, the glaciers in Greenland were nearing catastrophic collapse. And displays an article here. We've been hearing this all along. Temperatures rising, Arctic sea rising. But yet we keep showing the data, and that's not true. Greenland is not in trouble right now. Our ice caps are not disappearing this summer. Not when you have record cold sea temperature surface right here, guys. And all of you know that I've been paying attention to this as well. And we recorded another drop. Slight decrease from yesterday. We were at negative 0.497. Today, we're at a negative 0.54 below baseline. So, I'm just trying to state the obvious, guys. When you hear somebody talk about the Arctic is melting at a fast rate, A, it's not. B, this is the melting period for it. But I want you guys to save this video because I think there's some really important information that I'm showing here in the very beginning. And the next time you hear someone talk about the polar bears are starving and it's oh my God, it's melting up there, the ice is disappearing, it's supposed to be an ice-free event this summer, show them this video. The links are in the description and point them in the right direction. Mari and I, we title them, we put the links in there for every show because, I do ramble on sometimes, opinionated, but I do it to help people connect the dots. I'm not lying. I'm showing you guys exactly what's being presented. I'm not twisting this. I'm being as basic and as layman's term as possible. And that's what we try to do here at this channel, is to try to help reach out to everyone, not just a certain crowd. This information that I'm sharing right now, the last 2-3 articles, I think everybody can connect the dots on. This is obvious. This is blatant. Taking a look over at Robert Felix's page at iceagenow.info, he writes, people at Eureka Lodge woke up to an unpleasant but probably brief return of winter Monday morning. Now, the lodge got 6 to 8 inches of snow. The Darla Fimple, she said by phone, it was snowing still Monday morning, and an employee had started building a snowman. State plows have cleared the highway around the lodge, she said. The lodge sits about 3,000 feet, high enough that June snows aren't out of the ordinary. The first week of June, it's not unlikely for us to get an inch of snow, she says. But this much snow is very unusual. Eureka is located in Glen Allen, about 120 miles south of Anchorage. So there is a link for the entire story about this. I'll leave that here. But over at iceageinfo.now, he had a couple snow stories, but I just wanted to bring this one up because of the amount of snow they received. You know, an inch or two is one thing. 6 to 8 inches, guys. That's almost a foot. That's not fun stuff to deal with in June. Deep subtropical low hits New Zealand, wreaking havoc across North Island here. The storm jumped about 5.1 inches of rain overnight to the Gisborne Ranges, with another 4.3 or more expected by 1600 local time today. Gusts at Whiteland Island peaked at 105 miles an hour. Schools were closed, commutes cut off, and thousands of homes and businesses were left without power from the east coast of the Hawkeyes Bay and the Taranaki. Eastland Network's general manager of the network said, rain, wind, flying debris has caused outages, and repair teams have been working all night. Overnight rain has damaged roads and bridges. The Waiapoa River flooded areas and cut off the small town of Takaraka. Let's go with that. Oh boy, the Hikuwa River has reportedly peaked at 36 feet early Tuesday morning, and debris and logs were washing downstream. And as we have some visual here of the radar, normally they don't play, but I'll try it. Oh, here we go. So you see this storm moving in inland, and it looks pretty massive. And it almost, this is what Hurricane Alberto did. It came in weak off the ocean, and then it seemed to get more organized as it moved further inland. And look at this storm. This storm looks more like a cyclone as it makes its way inland. And the pressure on this, it maintains at landfall and only rises up to about 988 as it's in the middle of the landfall. So, I mean, this, like I said, this storm does not appear to be disorganizing as it goes over land. I'll leave the link in the description. You guys check it out. And, you know, at the beginning of this season, I talked a lot about baseball and how all the games were being affected. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. I thought for a minute that we were going to see a lot more baseball games canceled because of the cold, all of the moisture that we had in places like New York, Philadelphia, Kansas City, Cleveland, the cold, the snow, you name it. But here we are talking about World Cup. Showers and storms may impact the first days. Rain, thunderstorms could bring wet weather to some of the matches for the World Cup's first weekend. Warm and generally sunny weather is forecast across western Russia. And the vast size of Russia means that weather conditions could vary greatly at matches played throughout the country. So we're talking one day 85 and maybe another day 55. Venues hosting the 2018 FIFA World Cup are spread widely across Russia, resulting in a variety of weather. Or it could be a reason of that as well. The first game will be held in Moscow on Thursday, June 14th, when Russia will take on Saudi Arabia, 6 p.m. local time. All 12 stadiums and 11 Russian cities are scattered throughout the nation. Will then open for matches beginning on Friday. And here is our map of all the venues. And you see where we're going to have warm, and we're going to have rain, and we're going to have heavy storms. So we will see a little bit of everything, but I thought I'd mention this, give the soccer a little bit of love. I talked a lot about baseball. I'm not a big soccer fan, but I do watch the World Cup when they play. So it's a very entertaining tournament. The fans are amazing, and it doesn't matter what part of the world that we're playing. And I know there's some folks in there probably rolling their eyes and say, stop calling it soccer. But here in the U.S., it's called soccer because football is played on Sundays.
Be careful.
I love you, Starman. Sorry, buddy. My idea of football is a little bit different. But, again, a great, great tournament. And I've been watching this since high school. So I'm not a huge fan, but I do like watching this tournament. There's a lot of energetic fans. The sport's exciting when it's on this venue. And we talk some more about intense storms clustered in the Central Plains and the Ohio Valley into Tuesday night. We have seen a lot of rain in this area. The threat of strong to severe storms will focus on two distinct regions into Tuesday night, the South Central Plains and the Ohio Valley. Two separate systems will be responsible for the clusters of powerful storms, the more intense of which should target the plains. Although much of the day will be dry in the plains, storms are forecasted to develop explosively late in the afternoon and into the early evening. Now, we are getting, right now, most of the country is warming up into the 70s, into the 80s. And a couple things I've seen on Twitter, I've also noticed a lot more atmospheric compression happening as well. But it goes on to talk about here that winds of this magnitude are more than enough to bring down trees and power lines, as well as blow shingles off of roofs and cause property damage. And this area right here, especially a little bit further east into Iowa, have seen hail as big as 2.75. We've seen wind gusts up to 88 miles per hour. So it's been a very active region and where they're talking about right now. So just a little update. We got to keep an eye out on this region once again tonight as we had storms race through that area last night. And actually, just to get a quick look here at the radar, those storms, when they say they're going to develop explosively, they must mean that. They're expecting the storm region to start getting active right about here. So this is not anywhere on the radar at this point, but they say the conditions will just rapidly develop. So we will keep our eyes on this as well. And I just read that. Okay, so flash floods hit Guadalajara, leaving some areas under 13 feet of water in Mexico. And I do believe the J is a soft J. That's why it's pronounced Guadalajara, if I'm not mistaken. Guadalajara. Still it's soft.
An H sound.
It's a soft J.
It's an H.
Like yogging. Yogging. As reported by Mexico News Daily, water up to 13 feet flooded the dermatological station on Line 1, trapping about 40 people inside the carriages. Civil protection personnel, firefighters, and locals contributed to the rescue. Boy, that is terrifying. Fortunately, that the water was not breaching the windows and the roofs of the vehicles. Authorities said no one showed signs of hypothermia and received medical treatment. Very chilly waters, apparently. The canal running parallel to Patria Avenue in Zapopan overflowed and flooded nearby areas, stranding several cars. Again, a big shout out to the watchers. I didn't see anything about this in any of my mainstream feeds and my little search articles that I'd look for to put the shows together every day. I use 3 to 5 articles a day from the watchers because it's good information, it's accurate, and I mean they really go as far as when they tell you about the estimated numbers of people that are affected in the areas, and they give you almost a to the number exact prediction, just because they actually know the population, they study the census, they know how many people live in this area, so they base it on the facts that they already have at hand. So just a lot of good work from watchers. I feel like they're very thorough, and hopefully there's a lot of people that actually go to this page on a daily basis to check out what's going on in the world as far as weather, as far as volcanoes, earthquakes, you name it, they cover it, even asteroids and stuff like that. So the link is also in the description as well. Bud is now a Category 4 hurricane. Landfall expected over Baja, California, late on June 14th into the 15th. Now, I find this really surprising because I was watching Weather Nation last night, and they've got this thing predicted to be landfall at a Cat 2. And we've seen the store strengthen to a Cat 4. It goes in to say that the slow north-northwest motion is expected late today, as well as weakening trend through Thursday. So there's why we see actually we look at the storm information here, and it looks like it's going to be downgraded to just your normal tropical storm by the time it hits landfall and into a tropical depression by the time it gets into the far northwestern corner of Mexico. And like I said yesterday, the good news about this is that we are going to see some moisture in the part of the country that desperately needs it, but this is not going to be enough. The extreme rates of drought that's happening in this region, we need a few of these storms to come through, but you got to watch that too, with areas that don't have a lot of rain, that are dry. Now you get flash flooding, you get mudslides, you have more dangers. So at the same time, it's good to see that we might have some moisture coming into this region, but let's hope that it's not too much at once, because it will cause even more problems. This video is no longer available. Okay. Warm up this weekend, widespread of 80s in the northeastern U.S. this weekend. I wanted to show everybody we do have a little pattern change coming up. A change in the weather pattern will allow 80 degrees Fahrenheit weather to experience over a large part of the northeastern United States starting this weekend. The pattern will be favorable for most warm weather activities, ranging from swimming to golfing or just walking. A southward dip in the jet stream has allowed cool, dry air to place in New England, while it created a highway for rain and thunderstorms to travel upon the Midwest into the Mid-Atlantic region in the recent days. This southward jet stream will linger into the end of the week. And by weekend, we are looking at a much different, that cooler air will move, so that jet stream will push that pocket of cooler air. And I told somebody on Twitter today, bring it on. After the winter that we've had, I believe it was Judah Cohen actually, he made a nice little tweet yesterday as well, predicting that we will see warmer temps a week early or 2 weeks early before summer solstice. And it begins this weekend. And I can tell you right now, we got highs today in the 70s, tomorrow and Thursday also in the 70s. I'm not going to complain about weather like that. So it's nice to see the 70s and 80s finally making its way into most of the country. But look back here in Chicago, we're going to be in the 90s. Even parts of Michigan is going to experience a high of 89 degrees in the far northern parts of the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So, and they talk about this here in this article as well. We're going to see some areas hitting 90, but people heading to the beaches should not expect highs to be well in the 80s, but rather in the upper 60s and the middle 70s. They're talking about areas in New England later on this week into the weekend. Ocean water temperatures generally range from the lower 60s along the New England coast to the lower 70s. So with these water temperatures, bathers should be aware of the risk of cold water shock. Water temperatures of spring-fed streams and lakes may be much lower. Also, always swim at a lifeguard-protected beaches and with thank you very much. It's like filler. Let's hear about the weather. Give me the stats. That's all I need to know. I'll leave the link in the description, but just wanted to share for most of us who have been shivering for the past months. We had a warm up a little bit minorly in May, but for the most part, it's been cool here in the Northeast. So it's nice to see some good news finally, as this pattern does need to change. And I'm sure the Midwest also could use a break from all this rain and these rain bombs that they've seen in southwest Ohio and southward now. And we're getting to that part of our broadcast where I'll show you guys the anomaly for the North Atlantic as it is continuing to drop, as I showed earlier. The values are now negative 0.540. That's below baseline. And as you see, not that long ago, back in May 3rd to be exact, right when the volcano of Kilauea started erupting, we have seen a drop in the temperature in the North Atlantic. Strange coincidence, possibly. Who knows? So I'm going to tell this computer to stop giving me notifications. All right, here we go. Radar right now, kind of quiet. Southern Indiana into northwest Kentucky is about to see some heavy showers move into the region. Meanwhile, we've had an area of storms that have dived south from Nebraska, Kansas, now into Oklahoma, and hopefully reaching the Lone Star State as well. They could use the rain. Still some showery activity in the Gulf, where Mississippi and Alabama, and also the panhandle of Florida, and some brief rain on the East Coast with South Carolina and North Carolina meet. So we'll go ahead and check out the quickly on the forecast. I've zoomed this out because I did notice that we are getting moisture from the Pacific as well into the tropics. That's going to help fuel this weekend's possibility of storm activity. Now here Bud has already made landfall by Friday. But if you guys notice, as I move it forward, moisture here in the East Pacific is moving towards Central America, near Guatemala. And also on the other side of Guatemala, we have moisture moving in from the tip of Africa, the far western coast, into South America. So we have this two streams of moisture combining, And at the same time, we have two low pressure systems that are making landfall in the United States that are bringing moisture to two different parts of the region, not too far apart from each other. But we get really active, though, after the 17th in Texas and Louisiana and Mississippi. Meanwhile, constant rain for Mexico, much of it over the next several days into that following Monday before things finally start to quiet down a little bit in the tropics. Bud's long gone, and back to a normal stormy pattern by the 20th of June. And just, wow, you can clearly see the systems almost reaching out both east and west at one point. So a very stormy pattern for the Ohio Valley southward. I don't want to jinx us here in the Northeast, but looks like we get a couple chances for rain. Looks like somewhere on Saturday here in western New York into Pennsylvania. And yeah, really, New England gets a chance of rain early next week. So the Northwest and the Northeast really kind of get a break from all the moisture. And both regions, not only has it been cool, but we've both witnessed also large amounts of moisture. And then we'll take a little bit farther here in the GFS. We'll go from the 22nd. And as we see here, GFS kind of resembles the European models, but it does start to show an increase of moisture here in the Gulf once again. And the southern states, which have already had plenty of moisture this year, get ready for another round of rain that's going to be coming as well the late part of this month, as the Midwest and the Northern Plains look to see a stormy pattern as well. So does that mean that we're back to that same temperature trend of cooler temperatures into the Northeast and Northwest again by the end of the month? Sure appears it. Here's our high temperatures, and they really heat up on the coast. So actually, the pattern looks like it's going to hold. We're still watching this region of cooler weather, but we have maybe some low 70s here late in the month of June, but nothing to be worried about. I can tell you this, though, it does feel a little bit more like summer this year than it did last year, up until really yesterday. Until then, though, we've had chilly nights, nights where we've shut the windows. We don't leave them open to sleep because it's too chilly at night. And into June, you'd hope that you can do that as some comfortable sleeping. But it does appear that we are going to see some changes and summer is going to happen now. I'm not one that likes to predict, but I did say months ago I wouldn't be surprised if we've seen some record heat in parts of the world this year, especially here in the U.S. I said the Southwest would be that area that would stick out. And right now, as I look towards June 20th, 21st, 22nd, I'm looking at triple-digit readings in the southwestern parts of Arizona and Southern California, southeastern parts of California, and right through the middle, the heart of California as well. So we shall see. This has been an interesting summer, but also notice that we may be heating up on the East Coast and the Northeast. But look here, these are daytime highs on June 25th. And as you see, New England, places in Maine are going to register in the 50s, possibly the low 50s to 40s. So hold the phone. We're going to keep watching the North Atlantic anomaly, and let's see what happens. We've been very active with volcanoes. Our solar wind speed has been very low. Our KP indices are low. So, from what I've learned from people in our community chat and other channels and other things that I've read, this is a time to be kind of on the lookout for more seismic activity and possibly more volcanic eruptions. And with that being said, I'd like to say hello to everybody out in the chat. Mari, how's everybody doing today?
Everybody is wonderful. They're sharing tips about their gardening and, little tips about survival. Rain just said he's been reading, if you start with 3 rabbits and provide them with an indefinite, am I reading this? You can start out with 3 rabbits and provide your family of 4 food requirements of protein for 6 months. That's the kind of stuff then there's some jokes about, chicken shit and stuff.
Well,
Courtesy of the Starman.
And I already told Starman I wanted to start a segment on GSM called Shit Talking. And once again, he's talking shit in the chat.
Exactly. Fertilizer is key to growing, so he swears on chicken shit.
I bet he does. But no, this is the kind of thing. This is why we like to do the daily show live. The chat, the people in the chat, the people in the community get together. And I'll tell you what I've learned from these folks, and I hope everyone pays attention because especially the gardening. And I don't really cover that. I guess we're going to try to do more of that on the homesteading series on Patreon. But I don't even really cover the gardening issues, and I should. But there's just so much to talk about every day. You know, there's times where I look and I think, I don't know if there's enough to do a show today. I don't know. There is. Every corner you look, you just have to look a little harder sometimes. But so much is going on a regular basis. Even if the weather is quiet, those are days I should probably mention some gardening tips and farming issues. So, all right, guys. Well, we appreciate you tuning in as always. Stay tuned. I'm not sure if we're going to continue the afternoon schedule or go back to the evening. I kind of enjoy the saying hello to you guys in the middle of the day. I know I get my overseas friends to hang out and participate more as well if the live stream is not at 2 o'clock in the morning. So with that being said, thanks for tuning in, guys, and we'll talk soon.